All right, guys, here we go. This is going to be a long video. I know because I've already tried to make one just a moment ago and something happened and I had to restart it. So I know this is going to be a minute, but it is so crucial. It's about current client referrals. So I'm going to tell you how the Mortgage Mark team does this. I do it. My team will do it off and on. When we do it, though, I promise it works. And let me tell you what a current client referral is. So CCRs, that's what we call them, CCRs. That's somebody during the process that from the moment they say hello to the moment they close on a home, they're a current client. After they close, if they refer you anybody, that becomes a past client. Okay. If they decide throughout the process, oh, they can't qualify or they choose not to buy a home or whatever, they go away and then they come back later on, that is a past client referral if they refer you anybody. It's only when they're in the process actively trying to do something that's current client. And how do I know this works? I was in the business 17 years. This was a handful of years ago. 17 years in the business at that time. I got challenged for a contest of who can get the most CCRs in 2 weeks. There's a group of us that took this challenge. And I would always say things like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, think of us if do you know anybody, think of if you know anybody who wants to buy a home, send in my direction. I loved working with you. Please think of me anytime you know somebody. But I never actually stopped and asked the actual question. So here's why I know it works. So there was a January when I did this. And I looked back the year before, and the whole Mortgage Mark team had 27 CCRs at the time. So there's a handful of us. So the entire team had 27 CCRs for the entire previous year. I thought that was really good. I was happy with that number. Contest starts in January. Cool. And I thought, man, if I'm going to do this, I gotta tweak what we're doing, because I never asked, because that's what the coach was telling me. Like, hey, you got to ask, not just like, hey, think of me. Ask. That's how you get it. And I was like, man, interesting. So here's the deal. If you haven't already, go check how to do a great intro on that very first phone call. There's another video that I made knowing that this was the second one I was recording, and it's all about the triangle of trust and how to set up honor. Stop right now. Go watch it if you haven't already. Okay, I'll wait. Okay, welcome back. So assuming you've watched it, you now know why and how to set that up, and that 10 out of 10 is so important. So now here we go. Going through this first phone call with Mr. Smith. Here we are at the end, the wrap up. Here's where we set the groundwork. We don't actually ask for referrals on the very first conversation. We're still trying to earn the business. Okay, but this is what you do to set it up in the future. So Mr. Smith, have I answered all your questions? There's going to be 3 questions we're going to ask him. 3 things. Mr. Smith, have I answered all your questions today? You have, Mark. Awesome. Hey, Mr. Smith, I told you, earlier today that when we were chatting, it is so incredibly important that we make Joe look good. So I need to know today on a 1 to 10, because you've already set this up in the opening intro. On 1 to 10, Mr. Smith, how did we do today? Mark, you're a 10. Wow, yes. I love it. Gold star. I'll put one on my fridge tonight. Thank you, sir. I love it and I appreciate it. Remember, Joe, I need to do such a great job that Joe knows we did a great job. So, man, 10 out of 10 is awesome. And the reason why I need that from you is so that in the future, you can be like Joe. I want you to have the same trust and confidence in me and my team. And I know that's bad grammar, but my team and I, right? Or the team and me. But you need to have such great confidence in our team that you feel comfortable referring people like you. Because here's the deal, Mr. Smith. You may not know this, but in the next 90 days, maybe 120, but 90 days, statistically, you will find somebody who needs a mortgage. It's called a reticular activator. And so, for example, if you bought that new white pickup truck, you're going to see white pickup trucks everywhere. When your wife was pregnant, you see pregnant women everywhere, right? So when you're about to do something, you suddenly notice it everywhere. That's a reticular activator. So statistically, you will find somebody in this next 90 days. Guys, why am I saying you will? I'm not saying you might find somebody, or if you do, I'm saying you will, because it's now putting their little antennas up and they're now thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to find somebody. Good to know. So Mr. Smith, when you find that person, it is so important to me that we are a 10 out of 10 so that you have the same trust and confidence in us that Joe does. So you're going back to the triangle of trust. So I have to make sure that you feel really good about that. And does that make sense to you, Mr. Smith? You see why this is so important? I do, Mark. That is awesome. Mr. Smith, I'm going to ask one more favor from you real quick. When we hang up, or even right now, if you want, would you do me a big, huge, monstrous favor? Would you text Joe or call him? But just text Joe and thank him. Let him know that we're that 10 out of 10. Because that is important to me. It is important that Joe keeps having that trust and confidence referring. I tell Joe I'm great all the time. He rolls his eyes and laughs. But coming from you, it matters. So, and they kind of chuckle sometimes, like, oh my gosh, no, it is so important. If you don't mind, please, right now, start the text. Thank you for doing that, or promise me you'll do it. Cool, I will, Mark. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. And by the way, when you hang up, go ahead and text Mr. Smith and Joe. Hey, Mr. Smith, great talking to you. Really look forward to working with you again. Because that'll give him the prompt that says, oh man, hey, Joe, just by the way, Mark was incredible. Can't wait. Thank you so much for the introduction. So not only does it, reaffirm the triangle of trust. It didn't even look good to Joe, but you've also told him he will find somebody. So have him text. You told him he will find somebody. And the third question you ask on the very first phone call is, hey, Mr. Smith, thank you for that 10 out of 10. Thank you for texting Joe. Are you sure have I answered all your questions today? Yes, you have, Mark. Awesome. Cool. So guys, that third question, even though it's the same as number one, it's important. I'll tell you why here in a second. So that's the first phone call. Just reaffirm at the end. Do you have any questions? How are we doing 1 to 10? And are you sure you don't have any more questions? So guys, on that 1 to 10, let's talk about the guy that's a tough critic. No, man, how are you doing, Mark? You're good. You're good. No, man, I need to know it. 1 to 10, how are we doing? You're good, Mark. Well, what was good? Is that 7, 8, or 9? What are we talking? 8. All right, cool. Look, I'll take B's. B's are great. I got a 7. C's are great. C's for cookie. I got a couple of them in high school. No big deal. What do we need to do to be a 10? Just shut up. Wait to see what they say. Right? Well, I just, I don't know you well enough. Well, that's going to take time. So let's take away the time factor of it. In today's conversation, for the 20 minutes we've known each other and all the questions, is this conversation a 10 out of 10? Yeah, Mark, it's 10 out of 10. Awesome. No, Mark, hey, I don't know. Well, listen, Mr. Smith, what do we need to do? What in your mind to make this a 10 out of 10? What do we got to do to make sure this conversation, did we not cover everything? Do you have any questions? Well, I thought we were going to cover stuff on payments. Cool. Let's go into payments. Payments. Here's how we do it. We're done talking, Mr. Smith. We're done talking about payments. Have I answered all your questions now? Are we good? Are we back to square? We good now? Yeah. 1 to 10. How are we now? Mark, you're a 10 out of 10. Awesome. Move on. Hey, Mark, you're an 8. You're good. We improved. Cool. Are we an 8? Awesome. Hey, Mr. Smith. Let me ask something. Are we ever going to get to a 10? Like, some folks are just really tough critics, and I love those tough critics. So that means when you refer somebody in the future, that means they're going to be like sold because they know that you're a tough critic. So let me just ask this. Is 8 kind of going to be the upper end, or is there anything I can do to be a 10? Yeah, I'm just kind of a tough critic. I don't think anybody's going to win 10. Awesome. So what I'm hearing is I'm an 8 out of 8. I love it. I'll adjust my scale. I'll make sure we know this. My goal then is to be an 8 out of 8 out of every time. Does that work for you, Mr. Smith? Yeah, it does, Mark. They usually chuckle. So again, do you have any other questions? How are we doing 1 to 10? And do you have any questions? Right? And inside of that, when you ask for the 1 to 10, you tell them why it's important to get that 10. So that please text Joe and let them know I'm a 10. And because in the future, when you find somebody, because your antennas are up, I want to make sure that we're 10 so that you can refer them with confidence. Cool. Guys, it's the end of the first phone call. It's a lot. I promise I do this. It's easy. It's natural because a lot of times they'll interject. They'll have some phone calls, some conversations in there. Here's the magic. So number 2 phone call and beyond. Every freaking time you need to be doing this closing like this with one more question in there. So there's 4 questions now. Number 4. More questions. Hey, Mr. Smith, good to hear from you a second time. How's everything going? Great. Talk. I don't care if it's 5 minutes later or 50 minutes later. Talk. Hey, Mr. Smith, that sounds awesome. Hey, have I answered all your questions today? You have, Mark. Awesome. Mr. Smith, remember, after every phone call, I'm going to ask you 1 to 10. How did we do this conversation today? How are we doing? Are we still a 10? I know last time we were an 8 out of 8. Are we a 10 out of 10? I remember last time, whatever it was. Are we still a 10? Mark, you're a 10. Freaking awesome. Well, now number 3, guys, here's the kicker. Here's the ask. That is awesome. We're a 10 out of 10. Mr. Smith, I know it's only been 24 hours. Mr. Smith, it's been 2 weeks. Mr. Smith, however long it's been since you last talked to them. Mr. Smith, it's only been a few days. Mr. Smith, it's been 30 minutes since we last hung up. Have you met anybody? Have you found anybody in the last 1 day, 3 hours, 30 minutes? I don't care when you last talked to them. Mr. Smith, have you found anybody since we last talked that wants to buy a home or get a mortgage in the next 12 months? And then you be quiet. And when you first say it, the first couple of times, I close my eyes like, oh, this is going to hurt. And then they'd say, no, nobody, but I'm sure looking for you. Awesome. Well, Mr. Smith, I appreciate you being a good looker. Keep those eyes wide open. Keep those ears and close to the ground. You will find somebody. I remind them if they say no, that it's okay to say no. But I remind them they will find somebody. Mr. Smith, you will find somebody. I got total confidence in you. I know it's going to happen. Just keep those eyes and ears open for me, okay? When you go to church, when you go back to work, around the water cooler, when you go to your football game this weekend for your kid, start working in examples of where they might find people. And I'll give that story in a second. So that's okay, Mr. Smith. You don't have anybody. That's awesome. Well, Mr. Smith, and here comes the 4th question. Are you sure I've answered all your questions? Did we cover everything you want to talk about today? So let's review the 4 questions. Have we reviewed everything? Answer our questions. Yes. 1 out of 10. How are we doing? 10. Awesome. And if they don't give you a 10, guys, don't ask for the referral. Skip number 3. But yeah, you're 10 out of 10. That is awesome. Have you found anybody? Do you know anybody since we last talked? Have you found that person yet? Because again, you're setting up that they're going to find somebody. No, I've not. Awesome. Keep up. Good work. Glad you're trying. Number 4, are you sure you haven't? Do I have any more questions? And you think, why are we asking that again? Who cares? Here's why, guys. It's happened repeatedly, and I can't tell you how many times it's happened. I got an easy example I can give you. I'll give you one. Are you sure, Miss Smith? Number 4 question. Have we answered all your questions? Actually, Mark, I do have one more question about mortgage insurance. Awesome. Go into it. Repeat. Come back to question number 1. Cool. We answered all your questions. Cool. Hey, are we still a 10 out of 10? I know it was 5 minutes ago. We still a 10 out of 10? You are. Awesome. Do you know anybody? Have you found anybody in the last 5 minutes that sent you a text? I'm being playful, guys, but I still ask. Is there anybody you know? Anybody that's renting or anybody that's doing this, your friends, downsizing, whatever it is? No. Cool. Miss Smith, number 4 question. Are you sure I've answered all your questions? Are we good today? Oh, Mark, actually, I have one more question. Answer that, right? Whatever it was. Payment. Okay, go talk about payment. Come back, guys. Rinse and repeat 1 through 4. And this is a real freaking story, and it's happened a handful of times. Miss Smith, have I answered all your questions? Yes, you have, Mark. Awesome. Hey, Miss Smith, for a 3rd time today, 1 to 10, how are we doing? Still a 10? That is awesome. So I'm a 30 out of 30. It sounds like that is wonderful, Miss Smith. Miss Smith, are you sure there's nobody in your world that wants to buy their first home? You know what, Mark? And I swear to you guys, this is what happened. I need to connect you with my son. Oh, really? What? Tell me about your son. Well, he's 25 years old and he's actually living with me at home. Are you serious? This person, I've asked you, this is the 3rd time on the same phone call. I've asked you, do you know anybody? And it's the person who's literally in your living room, eating your food, just taking up space in your house, and you didn't think of this person. It happens more than you think. And that's why you keep them talking with, have I answered all your questions? It went that number 4th question. It keeps bringing them going, and you get to re-ask one more time and add more scenarios each time of who they should be looking for. That empty nester, somebody going to college, the young couple that just got married, somebody just found out they're pregnant, had their 3rd kid, whatever it is, you throw those examples out there. I'm telling you guys. So in that example I gave you earlier about this contest, I had 27 in the year before. When I was done, that 2-week period, in the 1st week, I had 9 CCRs. 1 week compared to just saying, hey, who do you know? Let us help you. 27 the year before, 9 in 1 week. That's ridiculous. Let that sink in. Multiply 9 times, let's just call it 10 for grins. Let's multiply that by 50 weeks. Holy smokes, that's 500 new leads. And these are leads that are people who are giving you warm referrals of people they know. It is the most amazing, most underutilized script there is out there. It is amazing. So guys, feel free to comment. Tell me I'm a sucker. I don't care. But if you try it, I guarantee it. I guarantee you'll get more business. Try it. It took me, unfortunately, 17 years to learn this. And I wish I need to make my team better at this. I will admit that's a fault of mine. But guys, take the time, get the script mastered, make it your own, and ask and understand the key words in there that make things so important. You will find somebody. Oh, you haven't found somebody yet. Oh my gosh, Joe, the referral source is so amazing. Pay honor. Watch these things, study them, learn them. I promise. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. I know it's a long one, but this is a good one. I promise. Use it. And just remember to keep chasing excellence.